Welcome to the Brothers Dim. I'm Zero here with my brother Namano.
Yo.
And today we're going to be talking about...
I feel like you need to give me more time to speak so they know my voice, because you cut me off.
That's a good point. I didn't think for some reason you were going to say anything, so I just was going through, focused.
Welcome to the Brothers Dim. I'm here with my brother Zero.
Yo, yo.
I'm Namano, and we're catching up today on a lot of stuff, including The Last of Us HBO show, The Avatar, The Way of Water. But first, I have a bone to pick with you. Okay, the first thing is you fucked up, man. So here's the problem, dude. You have a YouTube channel, and we've had this conversation before about what names to use, right? I think I talked you into letting us use fake names for this podcast, but in your YouTube channel, you just use the real name. So what happens? What do you think could happen from that? Well, obviously the students at school are capable of using Google.
Oh, God.
And so they found your YouTube channel. like it's this weird secret where like they won't tell me who found it or whatever, who's listening or anyway. And then of course your YouTube channel publishes this podcast in addition to the podcast feed. So now they've heard this podcast, some of them.
Oh, God.
I don't know who can sit through the whole thing because they don't want to listen to like two fucking old white guys talking about whatever bullshit.
Well, first off, yikes, but how did you said they didn't really give you any feedback? Are any of them like impressed, or is it just kind of like, hey?
No, of course not. Of course not.
God, so I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that. Like you said, you convinced me to have fake names, pseudonames. I wasn't really thinking about if we're going to keep it, anonymous. So how serious are you about keeping it anonymous? And is this a real problem?
Well, it's over now. There's nothing to do. If even one of them found it, then anyone can know about it, and it doesn't matter what names we change or whatever. It's out there. So here's the problem it creates. What's the theme of the show we're doing right now?
We wander through the fog, and so we don't know what we're going to say. So we're going to say whatever comes out of our mouths, which nowadays is a problem. Is that right?
We are admitted, I can't even say the word, we're admittedly idiots, right? So like I immediately admit to, I'm a moron. I don't know anything. I'm stupid.
Shit.
I don't understand the world, which is like an honest admission in the beginning so that then I'm free to like not have to put on a persona. Right? Mm-hmm. That's not what school is. In school, I put on a mask and I have to pretend that I'm a normal person with a working mind that knows how to navigate the world and just a person who knows what the fuck they're talking about, at least sometimes, right? I can't be an open moron at school. I have to play a bit of the game and pretend I'm not an idiot.
So the problem is now your kids know that you're an idiot. And they're your students. They look up to the teacher, and the teacher, secretively tried to say, hey, I'm stupid. They found that out. I will say this might make you feel better. I'd say a few people have said, like, for example, you were on that other guy's podcast, and he said it, and a couple people have said it. They think it's more like, not sarcastic, but just kind of like, we're saying we're dumb. But if you listen to it, most people are like, oh, these aren't like Beavis and Butthead dumb. That's what we were thinking of. They're just saying that because we're admittingly not these ego-driven, I'd have all the answers type of guys. That's the way I look at it. We're just like, hey, I don't know. I'm not claiming to have the answers. I'm just letting you know what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, it's not a celebration of our stupidity, right? I'm not happy that I'm stupid. I'm trying to figure it out. But then there's admission of like low confidence in anything I'm talking about, because when I go out to, the internet and like, and then you see all the other fucking people with YouTube channels and they're just so fucking certain of everything. It's just so frustrating and annoying. And I can't look at it because they're wrong about pretty much everything they're talking about. Like they'll state an opinion and then they do like a 7-hour explanation of why they're right. But they're wrong the entire time, and they're putting on this arrogant tone of like, here's the way the world works. And I fucking hate that attitude. And so I'm trying to go the other way, where it's like, dude, I don't have that confidence, and neither should you. Anyone who has that confidence is probably wrong.
Like, can you even watch some of those YouTube videos where right off the bat, they kind of have that mask on where it's like, hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel. This is what's going to go on. So don't forget to smash that like button below. And here we go. So blah, 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 blah. I can't go forward, even if they have information that I need. I have to find one that's just like, all right, so I figured that out. Here's a little thing for you. You know, just regular. I can't even watch the ones that are really pumped up like that.
What's really sad is that is the vast majority of them, right? Because that's what, you know, you play that game to climb in the algorithm, and then more people see you. And so, you know, we've talked about this before with like the big shit pile, and there's a nugget of gold in there. The answer I'm seeking is somewhere in the pile of shit. But most people aren't, you know, they're not concerned with that. They're just playing the game. They're doing a superficial thing to try to get clicks. It just sucks when you look out at the ocean of the internet and everything that's bubbled to the surface is complete garbage. You know, it's the same thumbnail with somebody's mouth open, doing like a children's version of being excited or something. I mean, I guess it's idiocracy, right? Where it's like the stupidity bubbled up to the top, and anything that is remotely nuanced or intelligent sinks to the bottom and disappears, and you can't fucking find it.
The best case scenario, I guess, might be the Paul brothers, Logan and Jake Paul. All right. Or what do you think about this? Because I feel like they started off, and they'd be my prime example of, oh God, the poor youth. This is what they get for entertainment, these idiots. And as they kind of grew up, I don't know, they seem all right to me. They're at least smart in like a business sense. One of them's in the WWF. They both got into the boxing scene, you know, the UFC stuff. They're like calling fighters out, and then there's these big special boxing matches with them versus pros. I don't know. They at least might be a somewhat good example, although they were started out just as kind of annoying young vloggers.
To me, they are a perfect example of the complete collapse of civilization and humanity and everything that is good in the world. Not just when they were young, but the older they get, I think they are able to hide how evil they are, but they're still incredibly evil and poisoning the world with everything that they do. Okay. I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think they are a prime example of the worst of humanity. Have you not seen the stuff with CoffeeZilla and like what's going on with the scam that I think Logan had with like the millions of dollars and all that stuff?
No.
He was doing this NFT crypto scam, and this guy did this big investigation, and now it's all falling apart. And, you know, it's still up in the air whether or not he'll recover. But it was so clear that he is in that moment being evil, just trying to take money from children, selling them a product that doesn't exist and won't work, and getting millions of dollars and just working with all of these terrible scam people. I don't know the whole story, so maybe I'm wrong about some of this, but my feeling of them is that they are pure vomit. But whatever.
Or maybe they got, I don't know anything about that. Maybe they got taken advantage of, or maybe they are.
Nope, they are the driving force, dude. It's in, like, I don't know about both of them, right? I barely know anything about them, but I think they're very good at playing exactly the game that I'm talking about, where it's about getting views and clicks, right? The examples you brought up are ways that they're playing the game to get people to look at them, and they're doing it successfully. And then not only is there nothing underneath it, it's not just mindless entertainment, but there's something really damaging and gross underneath it that I think is counterproductive to society moving forward.
I guess I'm thinking maybe they make because I see him like talking to Mike Tyson, and you know how he is very self-reflective and had this big change because he used to be like, I'm gonna eat his fucking children, I'm gonna eat his fucking heart, and he used to destroy people, and he was reckless. He went to prison. He wasn't the best dude, and now you listen to him and he's like shroomed himself out and done the toad. Basically, he's killed his ego, and he's a much different guy. And now I think he's kind of trying to do good and stuff. And they're talking to him, and they seem like maybe like they might start self-reflecting and be like, all right, we got here using whatever marketing bullshit. It wasn't good stuff. And maybe they use all that clout to do good and change, but maybe not.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the opposite. I think any clout is going to be used for evil. If anything, they will be able to put on the mask of self-reflection, and they're doing it to sell a product, right? And in reality, they don't have souls and they're demons. Okay, is that confident and extreme enough? Yeah. I don't know these fucking Paul brothers. I don't know what's really going on.
It's fine because we both are on the other. We've just done both arguments or both sides because I'm on one and you're on the other, so it's fine. And I have a bottle of Prime energy drink in my fridge.
Is that one of their products?
Logan Paul, yeah, and KSI's energy drink. So,
well, that's good. That's good. Like all of this evil that I'm talking about, you're literally putting it into your body. So that's a good experience. That's a good experiment to see, what will happen to you. Is there poison in that energy drink, or is it actually good for you? I don't know. We'll find out.
So we might have to talk about this off air, but is this a serious problem? Because in our podcast, we aren't political. We kind of avoid controversy. We just talk about pop culture, films. So is it a problem?
It's probably fine. There's stuff going on with the younger generations being sensitive to like the things that people talk about, and they kind of want you to share some of their perspectives.
Yeah.
And when I'm coming from a stupid person's perspective of like, I don't understand this, you are obviously going to say things from all over the place, including the things that they don't like at some point.
Well, there's no way out. I was going to say, I can change my YouTube channel name, but it doesn't matter because it's called The Brothers Dim. If they already know that, it's on Apple and Spotify and everything. So I take responsibility, but you knew my YouTube channel name.
I never thought they would find Google you. Like, why the fuck would you find the brother? Like, that's weird.
The problem is that our name is very unique. So if you Google that, you're going to find it. Well, it'll be fine. We keep it pretty mild. And I wonder about that because in school, if you were saying other opinions in your classroom not relating to film, which is what you teach, then I would say, okay, that's odd. You don't want the teacher coming in and talking about politics in a film class or whatever. But, if you say it outside of class in another form, is it that bad, or are you accountable? Or I don't know. We're in a weird spot. So
we are, and I'm definitely not good at playing the game of this whole thing where like, I talk about the mask I put on at school, but I'm not good at it. I find myself constantly having to admit, like, especially when we're dealing with stories and art and they come up with ideas for movies, I don't know the right answer. I can give you the perspective of a middle-aged white guy. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a different world. There's things about your story I don't like. Am I right or wrong? Who knows? All I can tell you is that whether or not I might enjoy your movie, I mean, that's where I'm more comfortable coming from, where, because I've worked with people in the past who are way more absolute, and they're like, no, that's a bad movie, period. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not a matter of opinion. This is the correct way to tell a story. And here are the rules, and they're very strict and absolute, kind of talking down to people who haven't picked up on that yet. Mm. I don't know what the rules are, dude. Like,
well, look, there's good news to this, right? We are growing our fan base.
Yeah, by single digits.
We got the student crowd, and they love to talk. So we've cracked into a new vein.
I have a feeling no one's really going to listen. And now, who knows how many minutes into this episode we are right now, But dare I say, I don't think any of them are listening to this part of the conversation because it's been several minutes.
Yeah.
So like I was doing another show with one of the classes and we did like a podcast, and I'm trying to compromise. So it's 30 minutes long, right? Because I like to listen to longer conversations and they like shorter things. And so this is sort of the middle ground. I don't see the point in doing like a TikTok or like a really, really short conversation where I don't see how you can say anything real. Mm-hmm. It takes time to get into the moment and find your bearings in real time. And anyway, so I did this episode with one of the students. And so now I'm waiting on her approval. And she couldn't sit through the whole episode. She watched 5 minutes here and there, and she's in the episode, and it's about her.
Oh, God.
I don't know. I'm always going to like longer form content, and I think that might be a generational thing.
To me, it's an obvious advantage that you have, because even I slip into, I'll hit up a TikTok, or I'll just want it in 2-3 minutes, and I know it's healthier for my brain to find something that's longer form. So I think it's an advantage that you have and we have, and that the younger generation is going to have to fight against, because they are in this world immediately of those fucking dopamine hits of TikTok, and you can go for hours. You're not absorbing anything, but you're feeling good. You're laughing. You know, it's an advantage.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like there's pros and cons to each way, right? If you watch 100 TikTok videos, you know, you said that, well, maybe you don't retain anything, but maybe you do. Maybe you're retaining a little bit of perspective of like 100 different people, and you're getting this breadth of perspective on what people are doing. Whereas I'm just listening to one person speak for a long time. I'm getting a much narrower perspective, right? And so if this younger generation can internalize all of that and go through, you know, I would call it a short attention span. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's the right attention span. Maybe you should just be digesting these tiny little nuggets from all over the place, which is similar to like, you know, the seat at the table thing, where it's like, I think it's a bad idea to worship one person in your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And just go and bow down and go like, this is the philosopher. This is the thought leader. They've got it all. And now I just got to sit and listen, and I'm done thinking. It's better to have people coming in and out and getting a big variety, people that disagree. And maybe this is a extreme version of that, getting hundreds of people. And if you can process it, good for you.
I think that will solve this problem where I wouldn't worry about the students thing, because like you just said, one of your students couldn't even get through 30 minutes and she was in the episode. I think any student that can sit through our podcast is going to be a student that likes it. And I think anyone who might be offended or might, you know, not like what we're saying, they're not going to get through a few minutes. So it's kind of fixes itself.
Yeah. Whoa. Hold on a second.
That is blow your mind.
No, there was just an insane lightning strike right here. Like my whole room flashed.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I hope you're right. You know, a big part of it is I don't understand it. Like I try to understand them and all of this stuff, and it's a struggle for me. So I don't know. I just got to try to keep kicking along. Okay, so going off of this thing about, you know, attention spans and how long things should be, I want to transition into, as we record this, you know, it'll be released in later this week, so it'll be a little bit outdated. But as we record right now, tomorrow, The Last of Us airs on HBO.
Yeah.
I imagine that you will find the time to watch an hour of HBO every week, whereas you couldn't find the time to sit through the entire 30-hour plus game.
100%.
I don't know whether or not that's good or bad. Like, obviously, if the show is great, that's fantastic, and finally this story will go out to a wider audience. But maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's almost impossible that the show will... Well, it is impossible, because the show is going to be a different thing than the game. Like, the game is a different medium. You tell stories in a different way. You act in it, you write it differently, you act in it differently, you light it, you know, you direct it differently. Like, it's all such a different thing that it can't all be translated. And, you know, as I've said, it's like The Last of Us is pretty much my favorite thing. Like both those games put together, the way that story is conveyed, it's, out of any TV show or movie or whatever, that's the best version of a story that was effective for me, right? Where like I was on the emotional roller coaster, feeling every turn. When you watch movies or things and like you can tell they're trying to make you feel a way, but you don't quite feel it. It's like, okay, whatever. But, this was one where I was on the tracks.
Yeah.
And whatever Neil Druckmann, the director, was trying to do, for me, it worked, right? And so it's this perfect connection. And now they're going to have a nice short version that you can consume, but it will never be as good as the thing that I did. And so I don't know how to feel about that.
So you're afraid that you're going to get Cowboy Bebop'd again.
This could go a bunch of different ways, but it might be that in 10 weeks, when the show is completely aired, you've watched it and you're like, oh, that was good, right? I get it. I get why you love this. It's good. And that's all you need to think about, right? It's like you got a version of it that is, I wouldn't be so concerned if it wasn't my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But it's that thing where it's like, oh, it's my favorite thing. I wish that you could go through it.
But think about it like this. Assuming they don't Cowboy Bebop it, where they kind of lose the essence, they lose the themes, and they just, chalk it up to flashing lights and shit. Assuming they translate it and take the themes out, the stuff that you like, and put it in this medium, and, you probably won't like it as much because it's a third of the time or way less of the time. But, there's a lot of people who just aren't gamers. It's not their medium. There's a lot of people who can't read a book. And so if they make a good show or a good movie out of a book, it hits a lot of people. And then some people even go and read the book. So the same with this. If it's like blows me away, I mean, I haven't gamed in 10 years, so I'm not me. But then gamers might go play it. So if they capture the essence that you like, what's so bad about that? People are getting a taste of what you love.
You might be right. Hopefully you're right. I'm just sad that you'll never experience, like, because even if you watch the show and you're like, oh shit, that really was the best thing ever, now I'm going to go play the game, and you get to that last moment, it's not going to affect you the same way because you've already seen, it wasn't fresh and new and shocking the way it was for me.
Well, think about this. When we were kids, I would watch you play video games, and I did not like to play these difficult video games like Metal Gear, whatever, because I couldn't be bothered. It would frustrate me. I get stuck. There's a puzzle. I just wanted you to do it, so you get through the gameplay, and I see the movie clips. I kind of think I just want to see the movie version, just the video clips and not the gameplay.
There is this unique thing that happens, especially in the second one, where because I'm so emotionally connected and now the control is put in my hands, you don't want the story to go a certain way. You're like, and your heart is so broken and you're trying to push it another way. And the stakes are so high and your hands are sweating and you have to do the thing, right? It's not just happening to you. You're not just watching it, but now you personally have to push the button to make the thing happen. It's different.
It sounds stressful almost.
Like I'll compare it to this. Like if you're playing Super Mario Brothers and you're playing a really hard level and you die, oh, that's frustrating, right? Fuck, I gotta try it again. I gotta get through this thing. But when Mario is a fully crafted character and it feels like there's a heart there and there are these deep emotional connections to other characters in the thing and the stakes are really high and then that character dies, it's not this, you don't just go, oh, fuck, I'll try again. It can be devastating, right? You're like, no. Even if there's a linear path, it's dramatic as you're doing it because you're emotionally connected to it.
I had the casual version of just sitting back and watching you jump off the couch to remove your controller, to put your controller in another slot, because in Metal Gear, it was like tricking you. It was like, oh, you can't do it. And you had to like switch your controller around.
Psycho Mantis, dude. He could read your moves. He knew what you were doing and he could read your controller.
Yeah, I would never have thought I would have just left that I would never finish the game because there was no internet, or I guess there was. I just would have been like, well, this is impossible because it's not working, and been gone.
You know, you're mentioning a very special experience, right? Because fucking Hideo Kojima, he really wants to play with the medium, and he's going to tell you to go do things in the real world or hint at them, and you have to go, and you're like, what? I thought I was playing a video game. What is going on here? You know, it's kind of like mind expanding, right? You're like, oh, I thought I was doing this. Like there are these certain types of games, and they can do it in stories too, where you think it's one thing and you get good at it, or you can see where it's going, and then it zooms out and you're like, oh, the sandbox we're playing in is actually much bigger than I thought, right? Like the scale has changed. I don't know. There's something dramatic about that I just love it so much.
Well, we're definitely going to do a Last of Us one, and I'm glad I have HBO Go because I was going to cancel it after House of the Dragon, but then I saw this is popping out tomorrow or whatever, and so I'm on board. I'm going to definitely watch it. Be excited, dude. Fucking the Viper, 2 people from Game of Thrones are in it. That awesome little girl.
Yeah, they're obviously, I love both of them a lot, but you know, they're standing in the shadow of these performances that were so moving for me, right? Like the original actors were so good, where you didn't even know you could do this in a video game. Like have this kind of performance capture and this kind of emotion with a PlayStation. Whatever, I'm fucking old.
Yeah, well,
and I'm just complaining about, I went through these little things where you see how as time changes, they introduce new things to storytelling in the medium. And every time they do it, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And then 10 years later, no one cares. Everyone's done that. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Right? That's not interesting. It's been done a million times. No, I was there the first time they did it, and it was mind blowing.
If you like the show, are you going to be happy? Because there's a type of person, or I know a lot of people that are like, I read Game of Thrones. I am not watching any show. They are characters in my brain. Sorry, no thanks. Are you like that? Or are you like, hey, if this is good, great. If it sucks, well, it's kind of going to bum you out, I'm guessing.
Yeah, like it's different than reading a book like Game of Thrones or something, because when you're reading a book, it's all created in your mind. A video game is very similar to a movie in that it's all there. Right. You see everything happen. It's all been like there is a final version of it that you're not creating with your own imagination. Mm. I mean, if it sucks, it's probably going to do the same thing that with Cowboy Bebop, where like the Netflix show came out and then I just had a sour taste in my mouth. You could argue, well, the anime is still out there. Just go watch but it's like, oh, now I have this gross thing in my heart that it's hard to forget, where it just makes me, it feels gross. All right, there's one, okay, there's so many things I want to catch up on. Okay, so now, that said, give me your opinion on Avatar, The Way of Water. We didn't get to talk about it because I saw it so late. What did you think?
Yeah, Avatar, I was going to recommend it to you to do almost maybe its own episode because I really liked it. I didn't get as obsessed with it as Dune, but it's kind of in that same realm where I feel like there's it's almost more of a spiritual element to it. It's kind of deeper. And in Avatar, it's more about Eywa. It's almost like some sort of religion parallels this, but that, you're just a part of the earth and you are connected to it. It's very natural, and you die and you go back to it. And it's just that native culture that they have.
Na'vi.
The Na'vi it awakens something in people like me, I think, who are like not religious necessarily, but spiritual and seeking something. I think Dune had it better, Dune Part 1 at least. But Avatar, when you're in the IMAX 3D and you're in Pandora, it does kind of open something up in my head. Yeah, and I mean, partially I don't really I think it was the visuals are kind of too fast and too clean or something, especially in the first one. Whereas Dune, which I'm just going to be comparing it to, Dune was very relaxed. It's just giant sweeping shots of Dune, the desert, and it kind of puts you there that way.
Yeah, man, I have so much to say about what you're talking about. There's a lot of people, including students at school, who really look down on it and they just think it's so dumb. It's so cliche. We're just reusing stories that have already been told. And, I'm sure you've heard all of this kind of stuff before. And it's hard for me to be objective about it because I grew up with those movies, and he's producing these roller coasters, right? Terminator 2, like Aliens, what else, True Lies, Titanic. It's this insane ride with like crazy ideas and insane special effects. And seemingly you can interpret it very superficially, right? Where it's like, well, come on, it's just a fucking Disneyland ride. And it's very easy to kind of dismiss. And then the deeper stuff in there, you can also dismiss, where it's like, oh, big whoop-de-doo. They're doing like spiritual type stuff. I obviously, the older I get, dismiss that kind of stuff less and less. I think there is a very, very deep hunger for spirituality. And like, you've heard about these people who, after seeing the first Avatar movie, they were so into it that they got depressed when they had to go back to reality. The box office reflects that, and makes billions of dollars. It's very popular. It's very popular outside of North America. It makes most of its money internationally. So it's speaking to people in some kind of way. And maybe it's just the flashing lights and the roller coaster, but I get the sense that it is like the spiritual stuff that is really affecting people. I rewatched the first one, and I remember watching it the first time now, when you get towards the end, how much you hate the humans. And you're cheering for these aliens murdering all the humans because you're like, yes, kill that dude, kill him, like, humans are the worst. Look at what we've done. And isn't that weird for like a movie to get you to cheer against humanity?
Yeah, I mean, and it's almost exactly the same as real life, where, the Westerners came to America, the Indians were living literally, I mean, isn't it like almost the same? Bows and arrows off of the nature in the trees. And it's exactly what happened. The technology that we had and the drive to expand and conquer, it's just what happened in reality. So now you're watching it, and you just wish that the humans would go away, but they want, the resources. It's just so close to life. And then it just makes you feel it all over again and really be connected and almost just be like, man, I wish we were just like native, but science, right? I mean, but if science exists, then that's really not possible. We've gone past it, and there's kind of no going back.
It's very hard to imagine going back on a big scale. Civilization has progressed to a certain point where we rely on the technology that got us to a certain level. And now it would be very difficult to go all the way back to being one with nature. All of the benefits of civilization and everything that we're doing. You can't have that and have this deep, profound relationship with nature. But we're obviously missing it, right? That's why the movie is so effective on people. It's like, we know this deep down, dude. Like, it's not like right or wrong, where it's like you have to go with technology and have civilization progress a certain way, or you stay attuned to the planet and you have this more spiritual life where you're connected to all the life around you. It's not that one is right or wrong, but we've gone down a path so far that we can feel what we're missing, or the movie shows people what the other way could have been. Right. And it's doing it very emotionally. Right. And it's taking you on a roller coaster that makes you feel that way, where you're like, shit, you're kind of nostalgic for it.
Well, maybe it's even more engaging because Jake Sully, he kind of got to go back. He was basically the soldier in the modern world. He experienced it, and then he got to revert. I think everyone watching it is like, fuck, man, I want to be an avatar. I would definitely stick in my blue body and try and go through AWA and just do that permanently. I would.
You get to see it in a very pure form with the movie, right? The movie gets to exaggerate and just show you kind of an ultimate version of it. It's affecting people very emotionally, and that's what's getting the message across. Like, it's speaking more to your heart than your brain. Right. And so you can call it dumb all day long, and the dialogue's dumb and this is dumb and the plot point of the unobtainium, that's dumb, blah, 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 blah. You're going over kind of superficial stuff when that's not what it's concerned about. It's trying to move you in a direction. And maybe it is very simple, right? Maybe it's like, don't forget about nature. And in this new one, the most emotional part is the whale, right? Like that really affects people. And you see it, you see them harvesting the brain goo and all that stuff. And it's like, it's horrific in a way. It's like gruesome.
But you know what's crazy? That whale stuff was Moby Dick, right? And that was also exactly true to life, because they would harpoon whales for their blubber, and they would use that to burn oil. And Futurama did an episode on this, speaking of, to get a small amount of ambergris, which is some substance in a whale that is very coveted. So it's like they had a little Moby Dick thing where when the whale was gone rogue. It was straight, when I was watching, I was like, Jesus, because I've read Moby Dick, and I was like, we're getting Moby Dicked right here. And speaking of the whale, you're going to love this. In the movie theater when I was watching it, when, I forgot his name, but Jake Sully's son starts talking to the whale, there's a good section over here that is laughing. And they're having the emotional, like, hey, man, whatever they were talking about, it wasn't funny. It was like the big reveal. And they were cracking up because somehow he could understand the whale type of thing. And I was like looking over like, oh man, they're not in it at all.
I mean, I see that all over the place, right? Like I like or movies that are like earnest, or I don't know how to say that, where like, obviously a lot of people will read it as it's very cheesy. Like it's too straightforward. There's not enough irony or subtlety or whatever. And so they start laughing at it or just making fun of it. But I feel like that sucks because then you're missing it. And I know I've done that in the past where you kind of dismiss something because of a superficial thing that it's hard to look past, but there is something there.
And I like the simpler, the better in a lot of scenarios for me, for movies. Like, that's why I probably still listen to Carl Pilkington, because just give me the most straightforward, bland, simple version. And I don't mind that. I think I can absorb that better than when you get all intricate and complicated and stuff.
How did you feel about the family stuff? Because you went off on a tirade last time about how you hate families and you think they're stupid, and you only like found families where a group of rogues gets together and they create their own family, but they're not actually related by blood.
I was unhinged.
Did it bother you? Were you like, oh fuck, the Sullys, woo, this fucking family?
Not so much. No, it was fine. They did it pretty good because they were stuck together. So they had to, that was it. Like, they're not going elsewhere. They were protecting each other. And they were a pretty decent family. There wasn't any, there's obviously the father-son stuff. Is he too hard on him? Blah, blah, blah. But it was somewhat pleasant. I am more sick of the shows that show a toxic relationship or a really bad parent, like, for example, and they make light of it. Like, for example, like American Dad, the show is that the dad's this kind of, I don't know, just kind of toxic dad or whatever. And then it's mainly like that. And then Steve, the son, and then they make light of these situations that are actually, kind of annoying. It's like, which is good because you take the serious stuff that kids are dealing with and you wrap it up and make it funny and you can handle it. But yeah, those are usually worse relationships. Anyway, this family seemed pretty decent. They were pretty tight-knit. They're blue. So it was, I don't know, it was palatable for me. Here's why I don't like it, because it's like almost a trick that a writer can use where if it's a family, you don't really have to go into the individual person's reasons for doing a thing, because you can just say, hey, that's his brother. Hey, that's his dad. So you can just justify things so easily by saying, like, you don't have to do the legwork of where is he coming from? Why is he doing this? It's just like, hey, that's his mom. He's got to do that. Oh, he's better protect her, or whatever it is. You can just basically get that pass of their family.
It kind of feels like there's this thing where there are sort of these truths that develop over time, the way that life works or whatever, and then they become cliches, and then they get abused, right? Like you were just saying, I'll just abuse this cliche because I know it'll be effective with the audience and I don't have to do the work anymore. And then that ends up having the cliche leave a sour taste in your mouth, And now maybe even if the thing is true, it feels weird and abused and it's some kind of cheat code. And you're like, well, fuck the cheat code. I want something real. But originally it was real.
Yeah. And I can't think of an example, but there's like say a movie where it's a really strained, tough relationship between two family members, but you can't just leave it because they're family. But when I'm watching a movie like that, sometimes I'm like, hey, you guys are, you're mismatched. Your energies are not good together. You've tried to compromise. Just give it some space. Like walk away for a bit, but they can't because they have to sort it out and do all of it right there. And it bothers me because I don't want to watch for 2 hours where I'm just like, just do something else.
Maybe like family is a good microcosm I don't know how to say this, but like the way that you'll be in that kind of situation where it's like you have a conflict with someone and now you're tied together and like there's this reason that you can't just walk away. Like that's making me kind of think of the entire world, right? Where it's like we don't all get along. There's a lot of conflict between us, but you can't just walk away completely from each other.
Yeah.
Right? There's not enough room. You can't just take your friends off world and go somewhere new and never have to deal with the rest of civilization again. You're connected to everyone else. And so that's a struggle, right? So it's like, well, fuck, this sucks. So what do we do? We're not going to kill each other. That's not the answer. Then what do we do?
It's interesting because you can't just abandon, you could, I guess, but you don't want to just fully abandon your family or something.
It's like you're connected to something higher than yourself, right? This is almost like a spiritual idea or something. You have a family, and then in the family, there's individuals. And so as an individual, you might have a problem with someone. And if you only care about yourself and you don't care about something being above you, the concept of the family or being together in some way, you can expand this to a bigger scale, but let's just say family. If you're able to be humble in to this thing above you, that allows a way forward for like bigger things to happen in the world. If you act as a pure individual and you're like, well, fuck it, I'll abandon the bigger concept, fuck family, I'll do what I want, I'll leave or kill this person or whatever, that's only in your interest, the bigger thing, the bigger civilization, the bigger idea falls apart, right? You need people to kind of work towards a higher thing, work together to accomplish something bigger than themselves. And so we can't be completely narcissistic and egotistical. You have to leave room for something above you. You're not God.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the simple version of it is like everyone says this. Hey, you see your family at the holidays. That's like the fee or whatever. Like sometimes that kind of is a good answer overall. If you're having all these family problems, if there's a bad family problem or whatever, it's like you don't walk away, entirely because you got to come back for those holidays. You got to have a Thanksgiving with the family, deal with it. Everyone gets mad and then you go away and then you come back. And that feels healthier to me of like, all right, get in there. People are totally different, not getting along, but you do it, you try and enjoy it. And then you go away until the next holiday.
Yeah, I think it's a constant struggle, right? There's not a end state to this. It's constantly in motion. There's no final answer.
Yeah, it's a journey, and people grow and change. So that's like, it's good. You come back, maybe they've changed a bit. Maybe you have, maybe you deal with it differently, so it's kind of like a good test of how far you've come.
I just want to say like, I liked Avatar. I think because it's kind of simple, that's why it works on a big scale. It makes money all over the world. It's not for everyone. Like you can't make a thing for everyone. But it's also interesting because like I really appreciate this theme of like respecting nature and the dangers of like this unending progress and hunger of the people and technology that's like destroying everything. And the movie is made with the cutting edge of technology and progress, right? Mm-hmm. It's weird that the themes of the movie are so counter to how the movie is made, where it's like completely artificial. They're wearing all the dots and the tracking and all the computers, and they're doing all of this fake stuff, and it's to sell us the message that maybe we need to get back to nature and not rely on technology.
All right, spoiler alert for Avatar 1 and 2, but it makes death seem a little less scary because, like, when Sigourney Weaver died in the first Avatar, and they're trying to put her into her avatar body and she's too weak, so she doesn't make it, and she just goes into AWA, it makes it feel less scary because then it just kind of hits that idea that you're just, you borrow your energy from Earth, from AWA, and then you go back into it. It definitely settles me a bit when I see him kind of rest the dead body with nature. They've been connected to nature and they're going back to it, and then they become a part of it. Yeah, it kind of like eases the scariness of death a little bit.
Yeah, if you can ease your own narcissism and dissolve your ego a little bit and be more connected to the world, even if there's no magic going on, I think that might ease the fear of death, right? Because you're not the only thing. You're a part of a larger whole.
Mm-hmm.
And so your own individual death, which is something that drives a lot of people as humans, we're aware that we're going to die. To ease that, you just have to have a wider vision of everything, right? You have to be more connected to the whole world.
They just make it look cooler, right? And visually more pleasing because you attach your ponytail to something and you feel it. And it's like, it's not as cool in real life, but it's similar where you can feel at one with nature when you're just in it. But they just make it look so much cooler.
Yeah, I mean, the only version of it I experience is like walking around. I get to walk around the trees and go to the ocean and that kind of stuff. And that's as connected to the world as I get. And it's not quite as exciting as going to Pandora.
Exactly.
But I still appreciate getting to go in the movie theater.
I mean, you can ride a horse, but you can't ride one of those horses where like you're controlling it with your ponytail and you're flying around on a beast that chooses you and all this stuff. Obviously, it's just cooler than real life. So if one of your kids has made it this far, I'm curious, well, what do you think they think about, or do you know what they think about Avatar? And are they excited about The Last of Us? Do they know what it is? Did they think Avatar was stupid? Do you have your finger on any of that?
I know some of them at least think it's stupid. I don't know all of them, but I think a lot of them think it's stupid. Last of Us, I think, is less relevant for them because it came out, a few years ago, and they're still young, so like, they wouldn't have played it. So yeah, I don't know that either of these is relevant to them. It's old people shit, dude. It's relevant to me.
And it's weird how they waited 10 years or whatever, because the first one came out when we were I was maybe in high school or the year after, and they waited like 10, 12 years or something. I don't know why, but it's not really relevant to today's kids.
Yeah, I mean, the first movie itself is not relevant, but he's still doing the same thing. Right. So like, I think on a bigger scale, it has the same relevance, even though the movie might not be at the top of our mind. I mean, that said, it still makes money. They re-release it. It makes a bunch of money. Like, people are going to see it. It's interesting, man, because I didn't care that much about Avatar. And I think I reacted against it a little bit because I knew people that were really into it. And I had that attitude of like, fuck, but it's not super deep, like, because you've seen these other movies that are more sophisticated and like you're kind of worshiping this roller coaster ride. But whatever. Now I've sort of come around, and
I remember thinking it was stupid when I was a kid, when the first one came out. I was like, what is the hype of this? James Cameron kind of let drop the ball. I don't know how much, but I remember not really giving a shit and still didn't really think about it much until they re-released the first one in movie theaters in anticipation of the second one. And I went back and watched the first one, and yeah, we got way more out of it. I was like, oh, that was actually awesome. I enjoyed it. And then I got excited about the second one. So something maybe just changes, I think, when you get older, or at least for me. So maybe the kids are too, you're just too young. You don't really care about the spiritual stuff as much when you're like 18, 19. It's not until you get older and, life hits you and whatever, So maybe they should wait 10 more years to make the next one, and then these kids will go back and watch the second one and do the same shit.
Maybe, but I don't know. Like it might be one of these things where, the generation grows up and they become more like the previous generations the older they get. That's obviously been true in the past. I don't know that it'll always be true. And obviously it's not always 100% true. People do change over time. And so I wonder, because I want that connection. I want to be able to understand the movies they like and why they like them. And I want them to understand the things that I like and why I like it. And that becomes more difficult over time. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a solution to that. They might grow up and we might still be very different from each other, but I'll still be trying. And once in a while there'll be something that we can both relate to. Avatar might not be it, but there might be something.
Exactly. Yeah, something always cuts through somehow, and it's just the theme or whatever that everyone can relate to, and it's simple. That happens, here and there. Well, I'm gonna go watch. I was obsessed with Dune. I saw it like 7 times in theaters, and I watched it like a bunch of times at home. I'm gonna go rewatch Avatar in theaters, probably once or twice more. It's not as poignant to me as Dune. Something about Dune, but it did do something to me that makes me. And I never usually watch movies more than once, but I'll go back in there. I'll go experience it again.
I still only seen Dune once.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Because the first time you're not really getting it.
Well, hopefully they'll release it again before the next one comes out. Maybe they'll do something like that. And I can see it in the big screen.
They better.
All right. I kind of wish we had more energy at the end here because we're wrapping it up very solemnly. But I've got nothing exciting to say at the end.
If you like what you heard today, go ahead and smash that like button below. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, on iTunes, anywhere you get your fucking podcast information. We are the Brothers Dim. Don't forget it. All right, peace out, y'all. Oh, yeah, and don't forget to email us at thedimbrothers@gmail.com.
It's weird because I think we're at a place where even making fun of that is... even that's cringy now, right? Where it's like the original thing is cringy, and then making fun of it is cringe. Like, I don't know, we have nowhere to go because we haven't solved it yet.
What if our fans are like, "Oh man, you should act like that the whole time. That was by far the best part of the podcast when you got all hyped up."
I don't think that's real.
Would you do the podcast with me if I just did that the whole time?
Maybe because we're family, and so I would put up with a lot.
Yeah, I'd say please don't. If I'm acting like that, run away.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Duh.